The title said quick and easy oxtail soup Microdac style, and it is, but the preparation was something else. So let's get started. First of all, I did get the oxtail. They weren't as big as I wanted them. As a matter of fact, they were kind of small, but that's okay. I did put salt and pepper all over them. Not a lot of salt because it's so difficult to remove salt from your cooking, but a handful, not a handful, but enough pepper anyway. The next evolution, of course, was to brown both sides of the oxtail, and I simply did that in a frying pan. It's kind of messy, just want to warn you, and I will warn you as we go along as to what happens when you do each of these different steps. Okay, so I browned both sides of the oxtail, cooked it just long enough to get it brown. In the meantime, in the pressure cooker, yes, I did use a pressure cooker. In the pressure cooker it went after they were good and brown, and of course I added my usual, which is onions and thyme, and I added all kind of different goodies. Now, I left all of this in the pressure cooker. I did. I also added scallion. I like green onions, scallion. I really do. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I'm cooking and I'll just get a stalk, dip it in some salt, and eat it. I also added Scotch bonnet pepper. Here you've got to be very careful with this, okay? This represents about a third of a very small pepper, and trust me, that was plenty. Then the ginger. I like to add ginger to my cooking. I did not add the whole thing, just that small piece you saw right there, and some allspice, but not the grains. On top of this, see, is the powdered allspice, and that's what I put all over it. And when I got done with that, of course, the idea was to marinate it and let it sit overnight in the refrigerator, which is exactly what I did. All my spices, onion, scallion, thyme, pimento, all of that went into that, and they sat overnight. The next day, which is this morning, I added water. Now here you have some control. You have two controls really. You can add enough water so that it'll cover just enough of the meat and your spice, or you can add less water, depends on how thick you want your soup. The other control you have is how long you're going to leave it in a pressure cooker. A word of warning: follow the instructions of your pressure cooker. In my case, I allowed it to boil, then I added the lid, and then I put the little pressure cooker thing on top of it all, and trust me, I followed the instructions. I did precisely and exactly what they recommend. You don't really want to fool around a pressure cooker. Read the instructions carefully, follow the instructions, and do what it tells you. In my case, I pressure cooked the oxtail for about 30 minutes, which might have been a bit too long. If you don't like really soft oxtail, you may want to do it for less, say 15, maybe 20 minutes max. And then you set your stove so that your little thing, that little shaker thing on top, will shake maybe 2 or 3 times per minute. That ought to be sufficient. As I said, that's another control you have. You don't have to do it 30 minutes. Once it's done, allow the pressure cooker to cool by itself, or you can hasten the process. Now there's a way, and I won't tell you because I want you to read the manual to find out for yourself how to do that. Once I take the lid off the pressure cooker, I add more spices. Tomatoes, onions, scallion, bell pepper, yep, and some more thyme. I add it all in because I want it to simmer. In addition to that, I will add some broad bean. See, that's what it looks like prior to simmering. I call this butter bean. I think butter bean and broad bean is the same thing, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you can correct me on that. And here's my secret ingredient. I put a 1/4 cup of Coca-Cola in there, and then I allowed it to simmer. I also added a teaspoon of browning to make it look better than it actually was. You can add more or less, that's up to you. In the end, I had a pretty nice looking soup